And we are live. Okay, good afternoon. I'm James Lamont, Director of the Vadine Center for Rural Economic Development at the University of Minnesota, Crookston. Today, I would like to welcome you to the Meat Processor and Producer panel, sponsored by Agmark, Iowa State University. This is the first part of a 14-part series to educate people on the food supply chain, what happened, and how we will move forward as a society. I would like to welcome our guests and panelists and introduce them individually. We have Mr. Patrick Robinette, CEO of Harris Robinette Farms and co-owner of Micro Summit Processors, Carl Wittenberg, President of the Protein Alliance, Scott Christensen, CEO for Northern Pride, and Eleanor DeMuth, an intern of the University of Minnesota at Crookston. Thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to start the panel by going ahead and starting with Mr. Robinette. Would you like to introduce yourself and your operation?
Yes, my name is Patrick Robinette. We are a grass-finished beef operation located in North Carolina. We also own Micro Summit Processors, which is a slaughter processing and further processing operation. So the general is that my operation is vertically integrated, so we control all aspects of the industry, the production system. But then we also offer custom slaughter and processing for other individuals that have livestock, where we partner with them to get their animals from their pasture to marketable conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Robinette. Mr. Wittenberg.
Hi, I'm Carl Wittenberg, the president of Protein Alliance. We've been selling protein meat products for 22 years. We're the exclusive sales agent for a farmer-owned co-op called Northern Pride Incorporated. So our proteins diversify from turkey, pork, beef, and chicken, and we have an international and domestic customer base of about 75 to 100 customers annually.
Thank you. Mr. Christensen?
Yes, Scott Christensen, CEO of Northern Pride. So as Carl said, we're the processing end of the turkey process here. We have our plant and facility in Thief River Falls. We purchase, our birds are supplied by our growers and our board of directors, and they bring raise the birds, and we process them here in Thief River Falls, and then Carl and his team sell our products.
Thank you. Ms. DeMuth?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eleanor DeMuth, and I'm currently a junior at the University of Minnesota Crookston, studying both agricultural education and communications. And I'm currently interning for both Northern Pride Incorporated and Protein Alliance as their marketing and communications intern.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and start with first question, and perhaps we can start on the Protein Alliance Northern Pride side for question 2. How did the pandemic impact your industry?
For Protein Alliance, the majority of our customers are retail-based, so we had a very positive impact occur starting in March. You could feel many of the customers needing more supply. And one of the niche markets that Protein Alliance and Northern Pride has been concentrating on is more organic or no antibiotic ever given to our turkeys. So we saw a significant increase as calories switched from a food service consumer to more of a retail consumer. So we saw a boom through the COVID process. Our sales increased from 30 to 50%. April, May, and June. It's starting to taper now. You could see it in the second half of June that calories are starting to balance back out as food service operators come back into the marketplace. So for us at Protein Alliance, it was a positive experience with increased sales.
And I would imagine it's similar because your recipient in that case would have been Northern Pride, which would have been pushing out more product as well.
Correct. So Northern Pride is one of the processors that Protein Alliance represents, but we deal with all the major protein processors throughout the country, again, in all proteins, but turkey is our core. And if you were retail driven, you saw an increase. But again, turkey is balanced in the consumer's diet, so food service did take a hit. So many of the processors throughout the country that are tied to food service saw a decrease in some of their sales to that sector of the business. But Northern Pride's core customer base is private label retail packers is who we represent. But Scott can give some insight to Northern Pride.
So at Northern Pride, we're a little bit unique in that we're a seasonal processor. So we start up in April and finish right before Thanksgiving. So we're a little bit unique in the industry in that we had a chance to sit back and observe what was going on in the food industry and what our competitors in the chicken and turkey industry were going through in February, March, and prior to us starting up. And some of the difficulties that they went through with all the issues with COVID, we were able to learn from that, and it impacted our business in a lot of different ways, and we can get into it as we go through the details. But from an industry standpoint, there's a lot of issues with people going positive in the other food industries or the other plants. We were fortunate up here to kind of learn from that and got off to a pretty good start. So at this point in time, we have not had one positive in our plant. And so we've been fortunate to operate full out since the start in April 21st. So.
Thank you. Mr. Robinette?
Yes. For us, there was a major shift pre-COVID, and that's how we're referring everything as BC and AC now. So pre-COVID or before COVID, we have 80% of our market is food service, 20% of our market is retail. But then also I do marketing in very alternative, underutilized channels. When COVID struck, we used March 13th, 14th as our baseline as when everything had occurred from the marketing standpoint. As your other guests had pointed out, there was a major shift to retail. Unfortunately, being an independent beef producer, we don't have a lot of large-scale retail opportunities, or we didn't have, and so we didn't get to capitalize on that piece. But on the flip side, when using our alternative marketing channels, we saw a 137% increase in sales year over year, and so it just grew from a production standpoint. In the processing facility, we too can pride ourselves that we haven't had a single case of COVID. We took a lot of educational opportunities in January and February to prepare our employees. And then we have also constructed a systematic approach of how we're going to deal with COVID and documented it, and when we implemented it in the plant right along with our operating procedures.
Thank you. Since your companies have done extremely well from an industry perspective, what do you think the biggest threats and opportunities are, whether that be protein or poultry or beef?
So the biggest threat is what happens with COVID. In the sense from a production standpoint, we don't know if tomorrow somebody's going to pop up and say, "Hey, I got it," and so it's really hard to plan. You know, it's not like somebody able to take a vacation and where you're preparing in your production schedule. The other threat Well, there isn't. There's the threat's going to be on the production standpoint, in my opinion. You know, the big limbered operations are going to be hard to make the adjustments, and as what we're seeing, and so it's going to be, you know, so they're not a threat to us anymore.
Thank you. Any threats or opportunities from either the Northern Pride or Protein Alliance side within the industry?
So I would say on the Northern Pride side, the threats are around people and, like you said, on the COVID side of being positive, and how do we react and what do we do when we have some positives within the plant? How are we going to deal with it? So that's ongoing. The other threats would be one of our partners in the industry for packaging, supplies, or even mechanical parts. If they're not operating, are we going to be able to get what we need? We have, I guess, increased some inventory in certain areas. So we've had to spend a little bit more money to make sure we got what we need, even though we normally would purchase it more just in time. On the opportunity side, we've been able to partner with some of the other turkey companies in Minnesota and process some of their birds or package them due to issues that they had. So we've had some opportunities to work some overtime and some Saturdays to support our partners up here, or our competitors, you could say, in the turkey industry. So there has been some opportunities for us as well.
And I want to add, I missed the opportunity part. The opportunities on our end is again, you know, the thing that we know is that people are going to eat. And so there's a tremendous amount of opportunity where the traditional marketing systems are not able to react as fast. And so we have a lot of opportunities for new markets, new supply markets for our beef production.
Thank you. What innovative lessons have you learned as a result of COVID? I know you mentioned you were all fortunate to not have any positive cases within your plants, so therefore you didn't have to shut them down like other ones, March and April throughout the United States that we observed. But in addition to some of your market channels and what you've had to do, what innovative lessons could you share with the group or industry or folks that are learning about food supply chains with respect to how you had to kind of work outside of the box in order to maintain your sales, as well as in many cases, it sounds like in both cases they grew. So was there anything innovative that you could share?
I think for Protein Alliance, filling the supply chain was the utilization of frozen and using cold storage units strategically around the country to temper product out and get it into a fresh form so we could hit the marketplace real quick. A lot of people prefer to buy fresh and processed, but as the surge in retail demand occurred, we were able to jump ahead and buy a bunch of frozen stock up and then set up tempering programs to get it into the supply chain as quick as possible.
Oh, from a unique standpoint, I don't know that we have anything significant at Northern Pride, but we have learned a lot about people access and coming into the plant and entering. Prior to startup, we were able to change the way our employees come into work, take the temperature, review with them, get the mask out, and some separation with how we distribute the PPE. So we learned some things there, and I think that's probably the new normal. I don't think we'll go back. It's kind of like back in 2015, some of the things we learned from AI. You learn from them, and that changes the way you operate and becomes a new normal. So that's probably the unique part of what I've seen here.
Mr. Robinette?
So I think that the new directions is becoming, I believe we've become a regional food systems. and the infrastructure just hasn't made the switch yet to fully support that, but it's happening in a rapid state. We utilized companies such as UPS, who already has a logistics, system in place that they've perfected, that we're able to move products all across the country, and we can get fresh beef out and into the hands of a consumer within 48 hours. And so, again, we take a different approach where we just we're rotating out. We don't look at it in an inventory standpoint. We're looking at minimizing our inventory and maximizing our output. Is this a different approach? So those, so utilizing vehicles such as UPS, either from an individual standpoint, delivery standpoint, or even to our retailer standpoint, that allowed us a lot of flexibility in being able to react.
Moving forward, I definitely think you're absolutely right. When you look at traditional logistics and supply chain mechanisms, it seems that COVID's certainly changing it. So it'll be very interesting to see over the next several years whether that hub and spoke model gets more regionalized or if it grows into something more centralized. It'll be kind of fascinating. But that said, I would like to thank all of you for taking the time to join today's panel.